Hello everyone, today we're going to rig a static mesh and take it to Unreal Engine. Now I get asked this a lot, how we can get this done. In all of our previous videos, the characters that we rigged already had skeletons. They already had weight painting, and we use UE4 script to get them into the engine. But today we're going to start with a character that has just the mesh. There is no armature, no weight painting. It's even in the wrong pose. This is a T pose when we need this to be in the epic A pose. So today we're going to see how we can get this character rigged properly for the epic skeleton, and then how to take it to Unreal Engine 4. We begin as always by clearing the scenes, and then I will set the unit scale to 0.01 so Unreal Engine doesn't have problems importing this thing. And then I will also set the clipping distance to 50 meters so we have the full range of view in our viewport. Now I'm going to import the character that we're going to rig. In my case, I'm going to use a pre-built character, but you can sculpt something on your own and then retopologize it for use in a game engine, or you can get a character from any number of marketplaces that have. I'm also going to import the Unreal Engine 4 Manikin. So just go File, Import, FBX, select the Manikin, make sure Import Animation is off, and in Armatures, we want automatic bone orientation when importing the Manikin. So import this, and then I will select this bone here, do GY1 to move it back by 1 grid line so we have a better view of the character. Now I'm going to hide the mannequin because we're not using it right now. The first thing we do here is add a basic skeleton to this character so we can pose it with UE4 script. If you have a more complicated character with a backpack or shoulder pads or other accessories, that'll come in later. Right now we're just adding a basic skeleton to let us pose this thing. So I'm going to select the collection with the mesh in it, and then I will do Shift A in object mode, armature, and add a single bone. Because of the unit scale, this new bone is going to be rather small, so we're going to go into edit mode, go to the front view, and then I'm just going to select this top bit here, then do G, lock on the Z axis, and then pull this up so it's a little easier to work with. Then we can select this whole bone, go to the side view, and then I'm going to use this drop down to turn on wireframe, and in the armature section I will go to viewport display, take this to the top and turn on in front so we can see what's going on. And I will just grab this bone while still in edit mode and place it a bit more accurately to where it needs to be for the pelvis bone, and then I'll grab this bottom bit and then place it like so. Now you'll need to experiment with what works best here. For this character, a pelvis like this should be okay. And then with this top bit selected, I will do E to extrude and then pull up a bone like that. Then E to extrude again, like so. And then again to about over there. And then we'll extrude the neck bone like that. And then extrude again, lock on the Z axis and take it straight up for the head. Now this is a 6-bone spine which you'll need to work with UE4 script, and then we can go to the front view, and I'm going to select the pelvis bone here, and then I will do E to extrude, and I will extrude a temporary bone to about over here, and we'll see why in a minute. And then from this temporary bone I'll extrude the leg to about over there, and then the lower leg to about over there, and then go to the side view, and I'm just going to grab this and put this, place it more accurately, and then take this bit and put it over there, and then extrude from this with the E key, bring out the foot like so, and then bring out the toes like that. Then back in the front view, I can select this temporary bone and do X and then just delete it. So this allows me to have a parent relationship between these two bones without messing about over here in the data properties. Then we can improve the positioning of these bones a bit more. For example, I can go into object mode, select the mesh, go to edit mode, on the mesh, and then Alt-A to deselect everything. And now I'm looking for this bend in the leg for where the knee will be, and then I will do Alt click to select this loop, and then I will do Shift S, cursor to selected, then go back to object mode, select the armature, go back to edit mode on the armature this time, select this bit, do Shift S and selection to cursor. Now this is going to place this joint exactly where the knee needs to be. So you can use this method to make a lot of adjustments to these bones, and then the rest of this seems like it'll be okay, but you can obviously adjust these bones to what works best for your character. Now we're going to weight paint this thing too, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to make updates later down the line. We're just going to add the left side on this thing. Okay, this is not centered exactly, so let me just G lock on the x-axis and then just put this like so, and that looks a little bit better. And then it can't be bent over here, so you'll have to make a lot of these adjustments to get this thing just right. And obviously we can update this later as well. So let's add the arm now. So I'm going to select this bone, E to extrude. Oh, just undo that. E to extrude. This is a temporary bone. From here I will bring out the shoulder, and then another temporary bone, and then the arm, and then the lower arm, and then the hand. And I'll leave it at that for a minute. So I'm going to delete this bone. That'll cause apparent relationship between these two, and then I'll delete this bone, which causes apparent relationship between these two. Now you can see these dotted lines, so that means that this is a child of this bone. Alright, we added 4 bones for the arm, starting from the shoulder, and now we need to improve the positioning of these things. So I'm just going to grab this and put this about over there. You really want to look at how the shoulder bone is placed in the Unreal Engine 4 Manikin and try to match it as much as possible to get the best results for retargeting. So I'm just going to bring this forward a little like that to about over there, and then like so, and then just grab this and put it around over there. So like I said, you'll need to experiment quite a bit to understand what works best here. And now we really need to improve this arm. It's completely in the wrong place. So what we can do is, let's go into object mode, select the mesh, and then we can go into edit mode with tab, and then I can select one of these loops here, like so. Well, maybe not that one. This one, no. I'm gonna wireframe. This one will do kind of. No. There we go. This is the loop that we're looking for. Gives the best positioning for where the arm joint should be. So do Shift S, cursor to selected, back into solid mode, back into object mode, select the armature, then edit mode on the armature, and then we can select this joint here, do Shift S, selection to cursor, and that's some good positioning for the arm. So similarly, you just repeat the same process over and over again to get the best results possible. So I'm going to select Alt-A to deselect everything, then select this loop, Shift S, cursor to selected, tab out, back into object mode, select the armature, tab, go to edit mode, Shift S, selection to cursor. For the hand, same thing again, select this loop, Shift S, Shift S, okay, we have to do Alt-A, select this loop, Shift S, cursor to selected, tab out, edit this, selection to cursor. For this, I'll just place manually. Now you have to place the hand bone again like it is in the mannequin. In the mannequin, it's not going straight out to the center of the hand. It's kind of towards the index finger a little, and then from the front view, it's also a little lower, like so. So to get the best retarget on various animations, you want to make it as close as it is to the Unreal Engine mannequin. So this kind of works okay for this thing. And also, again, you can improve the positioning of the shoulders. You may have to experiment with these two. Okay, so this is looking okay. And now we can add our fingers. So same as before, I'm going to select this bone over here and then extrude a temporary bone out of this. Just going to select this bit here, E to extrude, put a temporary bone over there, and then E to extrude and put a bone across the entire finger. And then I can just delete this bit, and that parents it this bone to the hand, and then I can just select this bit, Shift D, and that'll duplicate this, and then I can place this over there, Shift D, duplicate this, place this over there, Shift D, duplicate this, place this about there, and then Shift D, duplicate this, and put this about over there. And then from the side, I can put this over there, and then position the thumb a bit more to where it should be. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the fingers one at a time. So I'm just going to select all of these and just hide them. All right, so like that. And again, it's just the same thing. Tab out, select the mesh, tab in. Alt-A to deselect everything. I'm going to select this loop, Shift-S, cursor to selected, tab again, Shift-S, selection to cursor. And then from here, for this bit, I will just select this one vertex and then do Shift-S, cursor to selected, tab out, and then move this thing over there. Right? So it's just the same thing over and over again for all of the fingers. Now I can go into object mode, select the mesh, go back into edit mode, and now I'm looking for the loop for the knuckle joint. So I believe it's this one. We can also turn on materials to have a better view. And then I can just do Shift-S, cursor to selected, and then tab out, click on this, tab, select the finger bone, right click and do subdivide, and then I can select this bit, Shift-S, selection to cursor, and repeat the same process again. Select this loop, Shift-S, cursor to selected, and then select this bit, subdivide, again, Shift-S, selection to cursor. So you just have to repeat this thing for all of the fingers. Now, the rolls on these fingers may be all messed up. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that later down the line. With the fingers in place, we can then go to the front view and I'm going to enable names and axes on this armature. Now for us to continue here, the names of all of these bones need to match what their corresponding bone is in the Unreal Engine Mannequin. So you could, for example, turn this on. Let's put this in front and also turn on names. And let's just hide these large bones so we can see what is going on. All right, so as you can see, this one is called pelvis, and then spine _01, spine _02, and so on. So these bones need to have the same names. So that's what we're going to update now. We're going to use UEFI Script to do this in an automated manner so you don't have to manually update every bone by itself. Now I'm going to go to scripting, select open, find the UEFI script, open text, and then click this run script button once, and that'll give us a UEFI script panel in the armature section, this one. And there are some tools here that'll help us rename these bones a lot faster than updating them manually. So I'm going to select the armature. Let's just hide the mannequin, we don't need it right now. And then go into edit mode. And then I will select the base of the spine, right? So this is the pelvis bone. And then in the bone rename tool, I'll select the chain to be the spine and then do rename bones. So the spine will have all of its bones updated. You can see it's called pelvis, spine _01, spine _02, and so on. So similarly for this leg, I will simply select the left leg and then rename these bones. So these get updated. And then I'll select the shoulder, select the left arm here, rename bones. These get updated all the way to the hand. And then for these individual fingers, I just have to select the right finger here. So this is the index, rename, select the base, always the base bone only. And this will be the middle finger, the ring finger, the pinky, and so on. All right, so that's rename the thumb. Okay, all right, now we're done. So that's a lot faster than manually updating all of these names. Now you should be aware that this might not always work. It'll always work if you do it this way, if you manually create a chain of bones like this. But if you're using a character from a marketplace that has additional bones attached to it beyond this basic hierarchy, then that might confuse the script. So in that case, you'll still have to update the bone names manually. But generally speaking, I always do it this way, so it always works. And then I add all the additional bones later on. Now we're going to use the bone roll tool over here in UEFI Script to update the rolls on these bones. Now we could bring in the mannequin again and check what the rolls are on the original armature, but I can tell you another way where you can simply remember it. It's really easy. So we're going to ignore the hands and the feet, but for every other bone in this armature, this red line for the x-axis needs to point towards the back of the mesh, okay, for the whole spine, for the arms and the legs. So let's update these bones here. So you can see the x-axis is pointing that way, but we need it to point towards the back of the mesh. So that'll probably be on -Z, I think. Roll the bone. Okay, there you see it's pointing towards the back of the mesh. For this one also, same direction. And for this one, it'll be in +Z where we want it to point to. And then again, in -Z for this one. All right, so for the entire spine, it has been fixed now. X-axis is pointing straight towards the back of the mesh. And for the leg, this is already correct. And this is wrong, so I'm going to just flip this around. And now this is correct as well. Now for the leg, you want to... Okay, this alignment needs to be towards the back of the mesh. Okay, it has nothing to, you're not trying to make it parallel to this line. You're trying to make it so that this vector is going straight out of the back of the leg. So if your leg is kind of rotated, this thing is not going to be completely parallel to the center line here. You'll need to experiment with this and try and fix it for your particular mesh. My suggestion is when you create your character, give it a straight leg so you don't have to deal with this problem. Now for the arms, it's also the same thing. This thing, and this thing, they all need to roll around like so. So it's going towards the out from the back of the mesh. And for the hand, it's different. We'll get to that in a minute. So I'm just going to deselect that, and now we can update the hands. Okay, for the hand, you want this x-axis to come straight out of the palm, essentially. So I'm just going to go to item after selecting the hand bone, and then just use this roll to update this axis so it's coming straight out of the palm of the hand. And you want to make sure you get this as accurate as you can. And then from the front view, I can box select all of this and then just hide it. And we also don't need names anymore, so I'm just going to turn off the names here. And for these fingers, we just want to work with the base of the fingers only. So I'm just going to select all of these, hide them, hide this, hide that, and hide both of these as well. Okay, so let's go to the side view. Now for these fingers, we want to roll them so it comes out of the bottom of the finger. And this number is going to be different basically for every finger, depending on how you what the fingers on your characters are like. It may or may not be the same for every finger. Right, so just get the best possible roll that you can, like so. And you can always update this later on if you need to. Okay, then now I'm going to bring back all of these bones, and then I will select this one, and then shift select the next one, and then shift select the base, and that has to be the last thing that you selected. Then I will do shift N. Well, I deselected the bones here. Let me just select them again. Then do shift N, and then active bone. Active bone is the last bone that you select when you're making a multiple selection. Okay, so again, this one, that one, shift N, active bone, this one, that one, shift N, active bone, and same thing again, shift N, active bone, shift N, active bone, and that updates the rolls on all of these fingers. So the whole thing is done. Just make sure that your hand bones roll is also looking good. And the only thing left now are the feet. So let's do that. Updating the feet is a little different. We don't really follow the mannequin in this case. Just select the foot. And what you want to do is make this x-axis be in the same direction as this line is over here. So I'm just going to go down to the roll tool and then flip this around, and for the toe the x-axis will be pointing straight up. So I'm just going to set this to be like that. And well, that's it for the skeleton, and we can go up here and then turn off the axes because we don't need them anymore. With the names and roles updated, I can just go into the front view, do Alt-A to deselect everything, Shift-S, and cursor to world origin. Shift S, cursor to world origin, so it's over there. And now I could do A to select everything, right click on any of these bones and then do symmetrize, and that'll build the rest of the skeleton that we need, and it'll have proper names and proper roles because we fixed them on the left side. Now there is a slight problem here. If I zoom in on this arm, you can see that these bones don't match where the actual mesh is, and that's because this character is not perfectly symmetrical, even though it looks that way, but this arm is slightly different from that side. The best solution to this problem is just to fix the mesh itself. So if you're a 3D artist, if that's easy for you, do that. That's the better solution. Another way that you could deal with this is to update these bones like this. So I'm just going to go into wireframe mode, select this bit here, do Shift S, cursor to selected, and then I can select this entire arm and then set the pivot point to 3D cursor, and then I can just rotate this thing into place like so. And then from the top view I can also rotate this into place like this. That kind of fixes our issue here, but the better solution is still to update the mesh or just create your mesh in a way that this problem doesn't come up at all. So cursor back to world origin and then back to. With the armature complete, we no longer need this wireframe to be on, so I'm just going to turn this off. Then I will go to object mode, select the mesh, then shift select the armature, and then do Control P with automatic weights. Now I can select the armature and then shift select the mesh. So this is the opposite of what we did before. And then we can go to weight paint mode. And then from this drop down menu, I'm going to set the 0 weights to active. I'm also going to use this drop down to turn on show wireframe. And now we can review the weight painting done by Blender. By default, Blender does a fairly decent job of weight painting these characters, but generally speaking, you're going to have to do some manual updates. For example, this character's teeth are not weight painted at all, and also you'll see that you'll almost always find a gradient in the head, and the neck will usually have too much influence going all the way up the head, for example. So you'll need to update this. This is a fairly easy fix, but the other two major problem areas are usually this shoulder joint, where this shoulder joint here, and also where the leg meets the pelvis. So you're gonna have to update this. Now you're going to use Blender's weight painting tools, and if you're a 3D artist, you probably already know how to do this, but if you have absolutely no idea, I have a separate video where I talk about Blender's weight painting tools, so be sure to check that out. When it's online, there'll be a link to it in the description of this video and also in the corner. I've skipped ahead to where I've already updated the weight paints for this character, the details of which are in the video for weight painting, so be sure to check that out. The major changes are to the head and the shoulder joints and leg joints, but really the entire character has tweaks to it all over the place, so all of that detail is in the other video. So right now we are all set to use Uefy Script to get this thing rigged and into Unreal Engine. Now I'm going to bring back the mannequin, and we have to make one update to this thing, because when you update the Unreal Engine mannequin, there's usually a problem with the foot. So I'm going to select this bit here, do Shift S, cursor to selected, then select this bit, do Shift S, selection to cursor, set the roll on this thing to -10, set the pivot point to 3D cursor, select the foot bone, rotate, lock on the x-axis while pressing the X key, and then -90 to straighten it out. Go to the side view, G key to grab it, Y to lock on the y-axis, and then just pull this back exactly like we have done in every other video. And I'm going to select these two bones, right click on this, symmetrize to fix the other side. And we don't really need names on this thing anymore, so I'm just going to turn those off. Go back to object mode. Now I'm going to make sure that the rotations on the armature are 0 for the character. Its scale is 111 and it's at the origin. And the same should be true for the mesh. It's at the origin, no rotation, and the scale is 111. So this is kind of important. Then I could do Shift S, cursor to world origin. So this thing will go over there. Then I could do Shift A, armature, and human meta rig. Now sometimes people may have installed extra add-ons and you may have access to the pitch poi rig or some other kind of meta rig, but we don't want to use any of that. We want to use the human meta rig that comes by default with Blender, and then I will press the S key and then type it 100 to scale it up, and then I will press the S key again and scale it down so the shoulders match. This doesn't have to be exact, it's just a rough match. And then I could do Control A and apply rotation and scale, so that'll give me a scale of 111 on the meta rig. Its rotations will also be 0 and it's going to be at the origin. Now we can go to scripting and make sure that UE4 Script has been run once. Then back in layout in the UE4 Script panel in the armature section, we could update this value to be the armature for the character. This is the armature for the Unreal Engine mannequin, and this is the object for the meta rig. You may have to press refresh list to get access to these values. The type will be set to epic skeleton. This is why we renamed the bones and changed the roles. Now we could do setup character bone names, which is a pre-process to help UE4 Script work with the armature. And then we can pose the character. So the character's pose will match the Unreal Engine mannequin exactly now. And now we can hide the meta rig, and we have an opportunity to modify this pose. I'm going to hide the mannequin and then go to the front view. And now we can improve the pose of the feet a little bit. So I'm just going to select this foot. From this drop down, we want to set the pivot point to individual origins, rotate this and just straighten it out like that. Then copy this with Control C and then Shift Control V to fix the other side. Now I'm going to go to the side view and Alt A to deselect everything. Box select this foot so I get both of these feet, and then rotate them into place like that. And then I will select the A key to select everything, and then G, grab, lock on the Z axis with Z, and then just bring this up a little bit like that. And then Alt A to deselect everything. Because of the way the Unreal Engine mannequin has its fingers there, its fingers has wavy bones, so our fingers also get kind of messed up over here. But we can fix this by box selecting these lower parts and then doing Alt R to straighten them out a little. And then I can do Control C to copy this, and then Shift Control V to fix the other side. So that's improves our pose, and now we are ready to move on. If I go into edit mode, you'll see that the rest pose for this character is still a T pose. To update this, we first have to go into object mode and then select the mesh, and then in the modifier properties, we will copy this armature modifier, apply the lower bit. It'll get all messed up here, don't worry about this. And then we can select the armature, go into pose mode, do Control A and apply pose as rest pose, and this will fix everything. So now if we go into edit mode, you'll see that the rest pose has also been updated and there's no difference anymore. Now I can bring back the meta rig, go to the UE4 script panel, and then click on pose meta rig, which will match the pose of the meta rig to our character. Then we could do Alt A to deselect everything. I'm going to open this armature here and hide the mesh. And then from the front view, well, we have to select the meta rig and the armature for the character. And then we could go into edit mode with both of these objects selected. So we can edit them both at the same time. Now I can box select all of this and then hide this, and then same for the other side and hide this, so we're left with just the spine of our character. Now I'm going to select any of the bones from the meta rig, and I will make sure that it is the meta rig by checking over here, and then with the cursor on top of that bone I will press the L key to select the whole meta rig. and then I will use the G key to match the neck. So just roughly match the neck joint over here, and then I can select these bones like so, and then grab this and roughly match the next joint, and then grab these two, roughly match the next joint, and then this last one like so, and then this last one like so. And now we could grab the head and match this as well, like that. And then I will select just this top bit here, G key, lock on the Z axis, and then just bring it up to over there. And I can also bring back the mesh so we have a better view over here. And then I can bring back everything, and Alt-A to deselect everything, go back to object mode, Alt-A to deselect everything again. I'm going to select the meta rig, and now we can disconnect the mesh from its original armature. So I'm just going to select this, go to the this is the mesh, go to the modifier properties, apply this here, go to object properties, relations, and disconnect the original armature. So now we have the mesh completely on its own, and we also have a meta rig that matches this mesh. So I'm just going to go over here and put the meta rig in front as well. Now I'm going to go to the front view, and well, we have to set this heel bones for this meta rig. So I'm just going to go to edit mode, select this bit, G key, grab it, put it like so, and then I'm going to grab this bit, put it over there, and then for the Z values on this thing, I will set them to 0, so it's just flat on the floor. And same for the other side, put this to 0, and then go to the side view, and I will use the G key, lock on the Y axis, bring this back a little, and then I'll grab the whole thing, G key, and take it to the point of impact. I'm going to lock it on the Y axis so it doesn't move vertically. Roughly over there should be okay, and then I can right click on this, symmetrize, and fix the other side. So Alt-A to deselect everything, and then go back to object mode. Because this mesh is not entirely symmetrical, if I was to bring back the armature, you can see that on this side the fingers for the meta rig don't quite match up. That's why it's really important to have a symmetrical mesh, or to make your mesh symmetrical if you can, but we can still work with this. I'm just going to select the meta rig, go into edit mode, select this bit, do Shift S, cursor to selected, and then I'll set the pivot point to 3D cursor, and then just select this entire arm like so. Now I could just rotate this thing into place, or at least make it a little bit better than what it currently is. And then we could do Alt-A to deselect everything, Shift S, put the cursor back on world origin, and set the pivot point back to individual origins. Alright, so now I'm going to create a new collection just to have a better organization here, and I will move the mesh and the meta rig into it, and then we don't really need this stuff anymore. So with the meta rig selected, I could go into the armature section here and click on generate rig, and this might take a moment, and Rigify will make us a rig over here. I'm going to hide the meta rig, click on the mesh, shift click on the armature, do Control P, this time with just armature deform, not with automatic weights or anything else. And now I can select on the armature, go into pose mode. In the armature section here, I could put this in front as well. And then in Uefy Script panel, I could do build Unreal Skeleton, and then just give this a minute to complete. And then I could do weight paint to transfer the weight painting over to this. And now I can select any of these controls, and the armature has, the character is now ready for animation. Now, most of the time you are going to want to put rig layers to the top and then rig main properties right underneath. Now if you want to update weight painting, or if you add additional bones to this rig, what we could do is go over here to layers, and I'm just going to select these 3 layers. Alright, so this represents everything that is going to be exported to Unreal Engine. So if you want to make any changes, these are the only bones that you want to add weight paint to. Do not add any weight paint to the Rigify controls. So this is the main layer with the export chain. This layer will have the facial rig, and this character has everything you need in the mesh to add a facial rig. We just didn't add one here. You could check the video that I made on how to add a facial rig to using Uefy. There'll be a link in the description as well as in the corner. And this last rig has all of the IK controls if you want to manipulate them. So this is the main layer that you will use. So for example, I can go into object mode, select the armature, and then shift select the mesh, and then I can go into weight paint mode. And now because I had selected the proper layer earlier, you'll see that all of these bones have weight paints, and you can update them if you want to. So I'm just going to go back here, go back to object mode, and then in pose mode, and then I can select any of these control bones for animation if I want to. I just noticed that this rig is not actually inside any collection, so I'm just going to grab this and put it into collection 3 over there, and you'll notice that the mesh which was listed separately in this thing is now gone, but it's actually inside this rig itself. So if you put them both in the same collection, they'll just kind of be collapsed into one another. Now I'm going to rename the rig to armature, and you have to do this, otherwise Unreal Engine will have problems with this character, so this is not optional. Now we're going to export this character to Unreal Engine, and we are going to do this twice. We'll see why in a moment. So for the first time, we go into object mode, select the mesh, shift select the rig, then file, export, FBX, select the file name or type it in over there. We want only the selected object, so in case you have cameras and lights and other things, this will ignore those. And armature, we want to add only, we don't want to add any leaf bones, and we want only the deformed bones, and we don't have any animations in this thing anyway. So this is going to export this character for use with Unreal Engine if you're creating a new skeleton in the engine. If you want to use the mannequin's original skeleton to share animations, so you have just only one copy of the animation and you can use it with multiple characters, or use third-party blueprints, you need to set the original bone rolls that come with the Unreal Engine mannequin. But if we do this here, this is going to break this character for use in Blender. We definitely want to make sure that you have a backup of the blend file before you do this, because there's no coming back from this. So if I'm just going to click this here, and now this blend file is useless for anything other than exporting this character. So file, export, FBX, select a second file name and with a different name to just indicate that this is with the Unreal Engine roles, and the same thing here, selected objects, armature, no leaf bones, only the deformed bones, and I'm going to export this. So now I have 2 files, and I'm just going to cheat a little bit here and then just use Control Z to undo this a couple of times, and that kind of gets rid of the set original bone rolls, although I don't recommend doing that. Undo is kind of finicky, might not work, so always have a backup before you do this. But right now I can just go back to pose mode and start using this thing again. So just a little dangerous shortcut. It's up to you if you want to use it. So let's look how this thing works in the engine now. In the engine, I will create a folder and then do import, select the file with the Blender based joint rolls, and then do open. And I'm not going to set any skeleton here, so that'll just create a new skeleton for me, and then do import. and just give it a minute. And no smoothing groups, don't care. Now I'm just going to open this and make sure that this hierarchy actually matches the epic skeleton, which it does. Now I can do options, show retargeting options. I will recursively set this to skeleton and then manually set the root to animation and the pelvis to animation scaled. And the IK bones will be set to animation as well. Now you're going to, these values are different for every character. You may have to select something a little bit different. This helps with retargeting animations onto your character. When you create a new skeleton, by default, everything is going to be set to animation, which doesn't really work out very well. For reference, you can check the mannequin skeleton and see what these values are on that, and that'll give you some idea of how to set these. Otherwise, just run an animation on it and just try different values. Then in the retarget manager, we want to set this to humanoid rig, and we don't have to set any of these values because they are already accurate, because the way Uefy Script built the skeleton, and our pose will also be accurate because the script set this pose based on the mannequin's pose to begin with. So we don't have to change anything over here. So just save this and then close that. And of course, you could open the mesh and then set any materials over there. And you also want to click on apply to asset. So that is required for when you do some retargeting the animations. So the skeleton will show up. Okay, so that's the first bit here. The other way that I can import this character is I could just create a new folder, then do import, find the file with the Unreal Engine based joint roles, open that. This time I'm going to select the mannequin skeleton. This is the default mannequin that comes with the engine, and then do import, and then just give it a moment. There is no skeleton asset created this time because this character is using the mannequin skeleton. And if I open this and then go to the skeleton tab, I could use the preview mesh to select any character that was imported using the mannequin skeleton. So these are all characters that I have rigged with Uefy Script in the past and then imported it into the engine. So I can pick any one of these things and then I can do apply to asset to get the preview in this animation panel, and every animation that was previously retargeted to the epic skeleton is now immediately available for use, and I could preview anything. You can also create an anim blueprint, and all of these characters that are listed here, because they have the epic skeleton, will work with that anim blueprint. You just have to set the mesh, and so that this is a great way to share animations using the epic skeleton. So everything that was these are animations that I got from the marketplace, so all of this is going to work now. I will be creating more videos, including the weight painting video for this character that we worked on just now. So be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of that future content. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.